Hi, this is Trisha Peach, and I'm not talking very loud because I'm sneaking around before I go on stage. I'm about to go on stage to preach for the main service twice in a row, but my good friend, the lead pastor here at First Assembly of God, Greater Lansing, he has a children's ministry background, and they have been redoing their kids ministry area. And if you could have seen this before, it was all white walls. I wanted you to see what they're doing with it. It is in progress. So even when you have a smaller budget or not a lot of budget, it's the creativity that matters. So great job, Joe and team. I know you guys are working hard on making incredible children's ministry environment. So I wanted you guys to see this was all white walls a very short time ago. I'm going to show you more in just a sec, but I have to go preach for the adult service, and then we'll go get a better tour. Okay? All right. Hi there all, I'm Trisha Peach, the host of the Peach Buzz, and I'm really glad to see all of you today. As promised, I am here at First Assembly of God of Greater Lansing in Lansing, Michigan, and I'm so thrilled to be here with one of my cohort mates. This is Pastor Joe Bridger. He's actually going for his MDiv at Bethel Seminary. And I just finished my master's there, but he is now the lead pastor of this wonderful church that I've gotten to be at today. And I wanted to pick his brain. I wanted to ask him a few questions because he teaches the class the last couple of years at CM Connect Conference on children's ministry facilities. And that's what they're doing. I don't know if you can see part of this behind me. They have redone this whole room. This was all white walls before. So I wanted to ask Pastor Joe what they are doing and what they're in the middle of doing and what he's thinking about doing as far as facilities go. So, Pastor Joe, you've been here 19 months.
Yes, ma'am.
That's neat. You're getting to try all kinds of new things and new ideas.
Yep.
What kind of things have you done for renovating the kids or in youth areas?
Well, when I got here, it was kind of interesting because I've got 17 years of experience in children's ministry, and so I came in, and there was a church that was really struggling with, they hadn't had any change in a very, very long time. So what I learned is you have to pace your large changes because every change that takes place, even if it's cosmetic, is a big change to a place that hasn't changed in a long time.
Oh, that's good.
So we made a lot of changes, and then we'd sit on it for, like, I call it live in it. We would live in it for about 6 months, and then we kind of tweak things here and there. But one of the things that I've learned is that change is very hard for people in places that haven't changed in a long time. But it doesn't mean it's not possible. It doesn't mean, you get a lot of flack and a lot of pushback, but you know what? If you make incremental changes and your changes are wins, then boom, 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 all of a sudden you begin to develop a sense of, respect and authority right off the bat if you get what I would call easy wins really quick. And so this room here, to a certain extent, was an easy win in some regard because there was actually no hallway in this room. You would literally go, this room was an extension that was built back in 1990, and there was no hallway. And so children and young families would run upstairs to our classrooms and literally cut through the youth center. This is our youth center and our children's ministry center. It's called the Calvary Room. And it was a great big sacred cow. And there's a big cross on the side of the wall. And it was the Calvary Room, and this is where we would have missions convention every single year. But the youth pastor was told you can't do anything to it, you can't change it, you can't do anything. And in fact, not only that, but your stage has got to be collapsible, and it's got to all be taken apart and fall down and be tore down. It took 96 man-hours to tear it down.
Oh my goodness, 96 hours?
It took our youth pastor 96 hours to, with him and like 2 or 3 other people, to tear it down.
Oh my goodness.
And so we changed that and said, you know what, possession is 9/10. We love y'all. But you know what? The children and the youth are a priority in our church, and so therefore we're not going to ask our youth pastor to do that anymore. And we're going to let them style and start to design the youth space and the children's space so that it works for them because they're the ones using it 9/10 of the time.
Yeah, it was going to be my question. The Speed the Light banquet once a year. Right.
Missions banquet, yeah.
The missions banquet, sorry. At our church, it had been the Speed the Light banquet once a year, and we had this whole wing of the church that wasn't being used at all.
Oh, wow.
Because the Speed the Light banquet was once a year. So basically was making the same argument
Sure.
as we have kids here every single Sunday and every single Wednesday.
Sure.
And they have to have a space.
Right.
And it wasn't, we were shocked at how easy it was to move the Speed the Light banquet to the multi-purpose room.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were able to renovate that space.
Yep.
Because I said, otherwise, you are heating it and putting electricity back there 364 days a year so that one day you can have a Speed the Light banquet in there.
We moved our banquet to the sanctuary, and you would have thought I said Jesus wasn't God for some of our people because we were eating in the sanctuary.
Oh,
So
the
that was a
sacred
big deal.
cows, sacred cows again.
So this room was a sacred cow, that was a sacred cow. So we stationed and decided, you know what, we're going to attack our sacred cows about once every 6 months.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go ahead and deal with those things once every 6 months, but they have to be wins if we're able to accomplish. We also went through a changeover in our youth ministry, and so we had a new youth pastor come in, and the youth group has also grown from about 30 to about 70 kids.
Wow.
So there's been a growth
Wow.
in that, which also necessitated some of the changes that we
Yes.
had take place.
Yes.
So
30
that's
to
very
70
important.
kids, that's great. It's more
Yeah.
than doubled in that short amount of time.
Yeah, well, we've been here 19 months now, and we have seen some good growth and some good transitions. But one of the unique parts about our church, you have to pay attention to things that are unique about your church.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why the missions banquet was such a big deal is because our church supports 124 missionaries a year, Assemblies of God and non-Assemblies of God in our background. But one of the unique things about our church is we're 4.5 miles away from Michigan State University, and it has a very strong African connection.
That's awesome.
And it makes our church very diverse. At any given point in time, we have 12 to 14 different nations that
That's
are representing.
fantastic.
So the missions, so we have people in our congregation who are literally saved in Africa because they came into an Assembly of God church.
Oh, wow.
They came to Michigan State University, they got their education, and they stayed here, or they went to Stanford and then they continued getting their education at Michigan State.
Oh,
And so I've
wow.
got like 6 doctors in my church. None of them are, like, they're Nigerian or from Cameroon
Yeah.
or one of those places, you know? And so missions is a big deal here. So you have to acknowledge what is a big deal and be able
Your
to
church.
adjust it or move it, but not just take it away. If you take something away, you got to return. It's like a closet.
Yes.
If you're going to pull something out in a remodel, you got to put something back, you know? And so we said we're going to move the missions convention. We're going to move the way we do it and change the way we do it, but we're still going to respect the fact,
Yes.
you know?
I like how you're using wisdom with putting the sacred cow battles at least 6 months apart, and that makes sense. That does definitely make sense to me. So if one of our viewers watching is thinking about revamping their kids ministry space, what do you think would be some good tips for them, some things they shouldn't forget to do?
Sure.
Maybe things that you thought went really well for yours,
Sure.
or are going well, or didn't go so well.
Sure.
What do you think they should know?
A couple things. Find the most painless thing to change and start working on that first. Find the thing that is the most painless thing that if you listen, people will tell you what their problems are. Find the thing that is the problem, the issue, the thing that everybody complains about constantly. I call it turning garbage into gold. Where you come into a space, and if everybody complains about something, if everybody's like, man, I wish this would change, man, this hasn't been touched in years, man, and you start listening, you'll start hearing. And then you know what? They'll come in one day, and you do an inventory. Do an inventory of your space, and if everybody's complaining about a situation, but nobody's willing, and you see this in church all the time.
Yes,
Everybody
all the
complains
time.
about something, but nobody's willing to change it.
Yep.
So then you turn your garbage into gold. You go into the place that nobody's willing to touch, nobody's willing to clean. It's usually like a storage closet or something that's broken or something that is a sacred cow where nobody's willing to touch something.
Yes.
And then you go ahead and you attack it and you focus on it one day a week.
Oh, that's good. One day a week.
Because it's gonna feel like it's absolutely overwhelming.
Yes.
But you know what? If it's the most painless thing, and it'll only cause pain to you, but it's not going to cause pain to a whole bunch of people, but everybody complains about it, you can go ahead and attack it one day a week and say, that day a week, I'm going to focus on that and nothing else. And I guarantee you, in 4 months, you'll not only have it fixed, you'll have it cleaned, you'll have it repaired, you'll have it better. And then people are going to walk in there and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Who did this? And you're like, well, we did this, you know. Never say I. We did this. Always incorporate them into the process and say, we did this, this is ours. And then they go, wow. And then they start to get a vision for, well, what about this other space? And what about this other space? And what about this other space? And then you've taken the garbage, the area nobody cared about.
Yes.
You've brought value to it. and then you move on from there. And that's kind of what we've been doing.
Absolutely.
Because these areas were kind of just left, they were always seen as multi-purpose, and so what happened was, and here's part of the story, is that people began to leave the church, and they began to leave the church because they felt like their children and their young teenagers, that nobody cared. They were always secondary people in the congregation. And they were, and all their spaces were multi-purpose, all their spaces were, it's like they were guests in their own church.
Yes.
And so that doesn't work in today's society for children and youth. And so when they walk in now, like this is the room, so you understand, this is the room where we have wedding showers. This is the room where we have funeral dinners.
Oh.
It's also the youth center. And so now what we've done is we've flipped it and said, not only is this the space where we do missions convention, we did missions convention, but not only is this the space where we do our youth center, but people come into the space and go, wow, now they go, oh wow, you actually care about your youth, and it's a funeral dinner. But they walk in and they go, wow, if you care this much about children and youth, and the space ends up speaking more than any program or like trifold. Well, this is why we love kids. You know what? You walk into a space, this is why we love youth. You walk into a space that's actually prepared for them, and you don't have to say a word.
No, it's a difference. Even as a parent, I'm a kids pastor, but as a parent, I can figure out very quickly walking into a new church if they allow children, as in they're allowing them here, they're going to babysit them, or they welcome children, meaning we really, really, really want your kids here. And we're ready for them, and we have a plan because, as you said, the space speaks.
Right.
What would you say to people that say, well, we can't afford to bring in the big names out of Oklahoma to renovate our space for us. We can't
or wherever,
afford
Dallas,
this.
Fort Worth,
Yeah. Because we researched some of those too, and we ended up doing a phenomenal thing on our own. So what would you say to those who say, well, we could never afford one of those big things, could we still renovate?
That's the first thing everybody says. Well, we can't afford it, or it's a sacred cow, which we've already talked about. But what I found is that you can't afford not to care.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is you start looking around, and they walked me through this building when I came in. The very first day, the search committee walked me through the building, and they showed me, and they were very proud of the building. And they showed me the building, and they were very excited about it, and walk around, and they sat down. And I remember because the church had dropped from 300 to 110 people in 14 months.
Oof.
And so I walked around the building, and I sat down, and I don't recommend you ever do this in an interview. But I sat down with them, and I looked across from them, and I said, you know what, thank you for the tour, thank you, but you need to stop saying you're 300 people. And they looked at me and they said, why do you say that? And I said, because a church of 300 does not allow their building to fall into this level of disrepair. So you need to just deal with the reality. And like I said, I don't recommend you do that. But doggone it, I did it because I felt like the Holy Spirit was with me, and I felt like God had called me. So then then I sat down when I got the position and they elected me, I sat down in the very first board meeting. They started rattling off everything that needed to change physically in the building, but they had no plan.
Oh.
They had no plan. So I'm just sitting, because I have a background, I've done 6 remodels, and I worked in framing and construction in the past. I had a little yellow legal pad, and I'm just writing stuff down.
That'd be overwhelming.
Yeah, and so I'm just writing down what they're saying, writing down what they're saying. And I pulled up the yellow legal pad, and I said, guys, you've just quoted an estimated $56,000 worth of stuff that needs to be done to the building, but you don't have a plan.
Oh,
so we started with small things that absolutely needed to be done. There were things that needed to be done. So start with what needs to be done. Well, you know what needs to be done? Probably a new coat of paint. And we're going to go down the hallways a little bit later.
Yeah.
And the hallways were white, but they were grimy and dirty and dingy, and they smelled.
Oh.
And you could smell.
Oh, man.
So you just you start. Paint doesn't cost a lot of money.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't cost anything to repaint a space with a muted color and give it a clean look. It doesn't cost very much at all to do that. You say, well, we don't have any money whatsoever. You know what? We did a fundraising campaign, and we discovered that the people really recognized that there was a problem, and we raised our first $20,000 for children's ministry in 6 weeks because the people were like, you know what? We recognize there's a problem, but we didn't have a leader who could tell us what to do.
That could tell you what to do.
So we started with paint, and we started with some other things, and then we moved on to bigger projects, and we took care of other things. And we went ahead, but we started with paint colors, and people began to resonate with that. People began to get excited about it.
Well, paint can change the whole atmosphere. Paint can
really
change everything. And our superintendent used to say, visibility lends credibility.
Right.
Visibility lends credibility. So they see the new paint color, they see the changes, and think, okay, there really is something happening here that I want to help with, that I want to get on board with.
And if you can't do that and you're like, oh, well, you don't have any money, we don't have any, well, you know what, if you look around your church, oftentimes there are places that simply need to be cleaned and organized.
Yes.
And if they're not being cleaned and they're not being organized, it gives the appearance that nobody gives a care. They don't care. I almost said something else I probably shouldn't have. But they just, it looks like they don't care if it's not clean.
Yes.
And so you want to clean up your space, and even that brings hope. People start going, oh my gosh, I feel hopeful about the children's ministry. I feel hopeful about the youth ministry. I feel hopeful because things are cleaned and organized. And when I walk in here, it's not a mess, and I can actually find things.
Yeah, I think what happens too is people walk past things over and over, day after day, especially the people that have been at a church 20 years.
Sure.
They're not seeing it anymore. They're not seeing it, and you may be that new fresh pair of eyes that God's using to go, okay, this has got to get fixed. And I can't even tell you how many times somebody then will go, oh yeah, I totally forgot that was there. I forgot that needed to be cleaned up. They got so complacent to it, just over time.
Yeah. And you can help them by asking a very simple question. And as you're walking around as the new person, or as you're walking around as somebody with new eyes, fresh eyes in a situation, you can say, hey, help me understand. Great language. Help me understand.
Yes.
How long has this been here for? How long? Because they'll talk about it. Everybody in church will talk about it like it was yesterday. Well, this has been sitting here for blah, 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 blah. And they'll talk about the problems and the issues and the complaints, but then you stop and you say, how long has this been like this for? And you'll discover 10, 15, 20 years.
Oh, man.
And then you'll say to them, hey, can you help me understand why this is the way that it is? Because sometimes fence posts are there for a reason.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's because somebody got upset, somebody got disgruntled, somebody got mad, they left the church, and nobody's been willing to, almost like it's like a cursed thing. Nobody's willing to touch it for forever. And then you say, hey, can you help me do this? And you'll be amazed at the people who are willing to help you. They're just looking for somebody to lead.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. They don't want to stick their neck out and lead it. But if you'll lead it, they'll be willing to come along and help and lend their creativity. For me, it wasn't so much our budget dollars, it was elbow grease and volunteers that jumped in. Yes, there's some budget dollars, and we did fundraising for that as well. But we had creative people in our church that helped us out for our remodels. We were quoted $18,000 for our new stage. I had a guy in our church who's an engineer. He built the whole thing for $378 worth of materials.
Wow.
And it was better than the one that I would have gotten.
Yep.
So sometimes it's not all about money. Money's important. The budget dollars are important. But I would rather have creativity any day. Creative ideas and volunteer power.
Well, and that's why you need to do an inventory too, because you don't even know what you have. Like,
Yes.
like there are lights set up behind me that were in boxes that we didn't even know were there.
These
And
are
our new
neat
youth
lights.
pastor came in, and they're not new, but they're new to the youth group because
Yeah.
they're old lights. But you know what? They didn't have those lights before. They were boxed up, they were put away, and nobody knew they were there. And then our youth pastor did an inventory, and
Smart,
now we
very
have
smart.
lights that we didn't know we had.
That's so brilliant. I would say that too. Do a full inventory of everything, every storage room. If you got a pole barn, I ended up finding really expensive puppets that weren't opened. I found curriculum and books and things that were still good. I mean, some stuff is going to be awful and you're going to have to go, get rid of it. But we found some very expensive stuff, many of it that had never been opened and no one knew was still there.
I guarantee you, your drama department probably has whole Centurion outfits from past Christmas and Easter musicals and stuff like that, that I guarantee you, they've been sitting for years in a closet, and I guarantee you that if you go to your worship pastor and say, hey, can we use those? He's going to be like, yeah, they haven't been used in years, absolutely, and then you can use those and repurpose those for children's ministry. You know, so I mean, things like that, you don't have to spend a dime if you just know what you have.
Oh, that's so true. Oh, that is a good word. Well, Pastor Joe, shall we take a look at the hallways?
Sure.
I like what you said about the hallways, and I'm hoping you'll tell them that. I had never thought of this before, but he told me they did the hallways first.
Yeah.
Before the inner spaces. And I said, why would you do the hallways first? And he had a pretty good answer.
Yeah, lesson I learned. I used to do the classrooms first because to me, in my heart, I wanted the best possible experience for the children.
That's awesome.
And so in my heart led me, and somebody said recently the heart is wicked and deceitful above all things. Who can know it? But in my heart, I wanted the kids to have the best experience possible. I want them to have the cleanest space, the cleanest environment.
Yes.
But what I noticed in the behavior of the parents was they would drop their kid off at the door and then walk away. Bye, Johnny, and then walk away to get their kid checked in and get them in the room, and they wouldn't enter the room.
So the parents never saw it.
They didn't experience it.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't experience it unless they were volunteer in the rooms, or we called them in for some other purpose. It was a multi-purpose space or whatever. And so we wouldn't do the hallway. So then people would be like, well, where's all our money going that we fundraised for? Because their experience was the hallway. And if you've been to Disneyland or Disney World,
yes,
and you go and you stand in those lines for forever, the standing in line is part of the experience.
Yes, it is. The theming in the line is part of the experience.
Yeah.
It's
So
the first part of your experience of
right.
it.
So I've done 6 remodels, but this is the first time that I've ever done the hallways first, because I wanted to cast the vision and let them live in it, and then we do the next part of the fundraising, and we say, hey, guess what? This is a taste of what your kids' ministries could look like, and they walk through these hallways every week.
I had never thought of that, but he's right. Doing the hallways first makes absolute sense.
Yeah, neither did I until I was like, wait a second. Oh.
See, we took a look in our ministry at what do the parents see when they drop off and what do they see when they pick up.
Right.
Because when I started at my last kids' church, it was this chaos of games. They call it something like battle soccer, blood sock, and it was just a nightmare. Oh, we always had a bleeder. It was a nightmare with speakers getting broken, and that's what the parents saw first. And then at pickup, it was some other chaotic game, and I said, this has got to stop because we have to be cognizant of what parents are seeing when you drop off and pick up. But I had never taken that to the hallway part of it.
Yeah, well, I went to Disneyland, and it just occurred to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm missing it. I've done 6 remodels, and I'm missing it. Wow. So there's always something to learn.
That's really good. Well, I want to take you to see the hallways, and then also to see the part that hasn't begun yet, because this part they've gotten some work done. It's not completely finished, but it's looking really good. The hallways are looking great, but we're also going to take a look at the kids ministry areas that have not yet really gotten going with the construction, so you can see some of the before and hear some of his heart for what they want to do there.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a peek at the halls.
All right.
Okay, party people. This is the check-in and registration signage. Notice the attention to detail on the signage. All of his halls have had a brand new coat of paint, and I love the attention to detail. He said a lot of people forget the thermostats and the ceilings. Don't forget the thermostats and the ceilings in your remodel. Now you notice this is what the parents see when they drop off, is newly painted hallways. You'll see no clutter, no trash, no broken stuff all over the hall. What you see is clean, neat, and people, it doesn't take a big budget to have a clean, neat hallway. That just takes elbow grease. See, these are very nice paintings. They pop against the backdrop.
Yeah, these are actually fabric.
Oh, they're fabric.
They're fabric, they're not paintings. They're soundproofing because the hallway would echo. So behind them, I'll show you real quick.
So this is really intentional. It's part of the soundproofing.
It's part of the soundproofing because there was an echo, but there's insulation behind them. But if you pull them off, they come off like this. And they're not like hung like a. This is really easy to do, but they're not like hung like a picture frame.
Yeah.
This is a cleat, and it's cut specifically so that if some kid comes down the hallway and runs into it, he's not going to knock it off.
Oh, that is brilliant. Notice the intentionality there, making sure that a child's going to be safe, that they run into it, they're not just going to knock it down.
Yeah, so there was an echo in the hallway because these are cinder block walls, but with these, the echo went away.
Oh, I hope you guys were paying attention. If you've got an echo problem in your hallway, these fabric paintings, they're not just for aesthetics. They are also helping with acoustics.
Yes.
That's excellent.
And as you go down the hallway, that we're separating the kids' ministries, so eventually we're going to have the gray hallway is going to be for the youth, and the blue hallway is going to be for the children's ministry. So we could just tell people, go down the blue hallway for children, go down the gray hallway for youth.
Oh, I love it. So blue hallway for children's ministry, gray hallway for youth when it's all done.
Little things like that. Now this is our...
I like this.
This is our GL First Kids Ministries remodel. We're looking to raise $87,000 to do this because this space, you got to understand, this church it was kind of the up-and-coming place in 1977. The church is 93 years old, and so we moved here in 1977, and they were the hot, hip, awesome, amazing church with all the styles and colors and trends, and then they just kind of froze. They just kind of stopped, and nothing changed for many, many years. God bless them. But this is kind of our vision. We've already raised $20,000, and you can see some of the pictures here are what some of the images, some of the rooms are going to look. A lot of this stuff is just paint. A lot of this stuff is literally just paint. And so you can see kind of some of the images of what we're going to be doing, and there's some graphic art wallpaper that we're looking at doing. Or we're going to go ahead. We have some people in our church who are artists who can do some of this stuff.
This is really great. I hope you guys can see this. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's going to be our 4th and 5th grade experience because it's going to help transition the kids to youth.
Oh, wonderful.
So that space is going to look similar to our youth ministry.
Okay, so for transitioning your group to youth, 4th and 5th grade, right. I think that's great. And I hope you heard him when he said that this is a lot of paint and, what do you call that? We used veneers, you know, that you could buy online, wallpaper, veneers.
You can do that. You can hire a graphics company to do signage for you. You know.
Excellent.
There's little things you can do here and there, but a lot of this work is being done right now by it seems like a lot of denominations have some retired construction workers who can come in and help and assist in churches. My fellowship has got a group called MAPS, and they're retired construction workers, and they will come in. We've got a couple of them in our church, and they come in and they're doing a lot of this work for us for free. I mean, if you can get 3 or 4 retired construction workers together and cast a vision, they'll really want to go.
Well, and I think you have not because you ask not.
Yeah,
you know, if
true.
you don't ask, then you really don't know. How important do you think is the signage?
Well, it's very important because when in this church, there was no signage. I used to joke about it. I used to say, because I have a background and my family wasn't always saved and they got in a lot of trouble with drugs and alcohol. And so I used to tell people, you know, it's like doing a drug deal here to find the bathrooms. You got to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody in order to find the bathrooms. And we had some funerals. We had no signage up whatsoever. None.
Oh, no.
And like nothing. And so we went ahead and we labeled all the rooms. We went ahead and made sure that the signage was set up. And our church really values scripture memorization for the kids. We have a program called Bible Quiz. So I wanted to relate to what was already here. I wanted to reach back into the past and be able to connect with what had happened, but at the same time point toward the future.
Yes.
So we have scriptures down the kids' hallway.
Is this the same thing with helping with the acoustics too?
Yes, this is the same thing.
Oh, I love it.
Take these down.
Got the rooms well labeled.
Yep.
Acoustic help.
And the signage matches thematically with the scripture memorization stuff and that's come down the hallway. So it all looks like it's all tied together. This is the same color as this. And this was all white walls. This was all white walls and they were dingy and you could see like the handprints as kids were running down the hallways.
Oh my goodness.
So
that's hard to imagine because this looks so sharp and so neat.
Yeah, we got permission and we redid the room numbers with Fire Marshal Bill and everybody else. Everybody's happy. And so yeah, the right side of the room is actually nursery and preschool area. The left side of the room, we're going to take a look. And the interesting thing about the left side is that these were the adult Sunday school classrooms. And so literally, and you'll see when we get in there, but nothing had changed since 1977.
Oh, wow.
And you'll see the evidence of that when we go into the room. But this is the area, this is what we talked about, the area that has changed. And this is the hallway they walk up and down all the time. This is the place that's changed. We have administrative offices farther down the hallway. But this is the area that the parents walk through now every single Sunday and Wednesday, and they get the vision for where we're going, which helps us to raise more.
Yes.
So,
visibility lends credibility, and it speaks when you can't.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, guys, we're now going to be going into the part that has not been renovated yet, so you can see a before. Are you ready? Okay, let's go.
So here we are in our space that hasn't really changed much since 1977, and this is going to be the elementary classroom. So on one side you'll have nursery, preschool. On the other side, this will be elementary classrooms, kindergarten through 5th grade. But if you look at the room, you can see a few things have changed. They did paint the walls at one point in time white, of course. But you can look closely at this space, and we actually had, if you look down, you can see there folding accordion walls.
And now you gotta remember, this hasn't changed since 1977, so if you look at the carpet, you can see the carpet that desperately needs to be changed.
Yeah, I think that may be like the, what do they call that? The earth tone green
Yeah.
of the 70s.
But the entire room was this color of this beam here. And we had a folding wall, but our classes have gotten so large, our job description classes, our small group classes, our baptism classes have gotten so large that we just took that wall down and we just used this room as that space. We've got construction supplies. This is going to start to be remodeled here on Monday.
Okay.
So we've got construction supplies all set and ready to go.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to start painting the rooms, and they're going to start changing some of that up. They're going to build a stage. And just to give you an understanding, this is all original, and you can see the 1970s kind of colors.
Oh, wow.
The chalkboard is so old it's actually disintegrating.
Oh my goodness.
Little holes, and these were the original chairs from the sanctuary
The burnt orange.
that they gave to the children, and they're broken and they have all sorts of issues, so we're going to replace those. But there's like 41 years of dander and all sorts of stuff going on in this chair, so we're going to throw those away and change these things out, get all this stuff taken down. Eventually we're going to have these windows taken out, and we're just covering them up because it's so sunny right now. But if you look closely at the carpets where the windows were, the carpet has been here for so long that the carpet is actually disintegrating where the sun has hit it.
Oh my goodness.
So if you look at
From sun damage.
where the light is, you can see the damage.
Oh.
So this is all, and the great part about this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms that is all open to be changed for children's ministry. When you open up all the rooms, you have this huge space.
This is a massive space. This is such a big space.
And it was all being used for Sunday school, but the adult Sunday school. But the sad part about it was, as Sunday school got smaller, they went from 7 classrooms to 5 classrooms to 3 classrooms to 1 adult Sunday school class. And there was only about 17 people left. And so we're now repurposing this space for children's ministry because that's the area of our church that is growing.
Oh, this is great.
We switched to adult small groups, and now we have 73 people involved in adult small groups.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been a blessing to see grow, but it's been kind of sad to see that aspect of Sunday school, but we switched it to small groups, and now we're repurposing this space. And so it's going to be really good. It's just going to take some time, but you can see that, again, every room had a class, every room had a, oh boy, wow, a class, green board and all sorts of stuff. But all this space is going to be renovated. All these old chairs are going to be taken out, and we're just going to transform this into an area that's specific for children and family ministry. So
wow.
we're gonna actually try to paint these, and this is, you don't want to spend a lot of money. Retractable walls are incredibly expensive.
Yeah, they are.
And so we're gonna try to keep these and actually try to paint them.
Oh, wow.
We've been told that we can paint these, and we're
that'd
going to
be
work on
neat.
doing that to save some money. And eventually, the carpet is all going to get taken up, and we're going to redo all this space.
So are we literally walking through here the day before the construction starts?
Yes, construction will start tomorrow.
Whoa!
Construction will start tomorrow. So yeah.
We're here the day before the construction starts.
And so we want to keep the accordion walls because we're going to make some of these areas like a play area where kids can have air hockey, foosball, those sorts of things, but then we can close it off and we can say, okay, we're done with that portion of what we're doing, now we're going to focus on this other stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so we're looking at building a stage at the end, and we're going to go ahead and do some other stuff, but eventually we're going to put a wall through, we're going to put a door in that wall down there because there's another room on the other side, and that's going to become what we call our deep storage, and that's going to be the backstage of the backstage.
Oh, wow.
So you can store all sorts of stuff in that. That'll be our children's ministries resource room, so if you've forgotten anything or you need something, you can go into the backstage, but then you can go into that room,
oh, I love
and you
it.
can go ahead and get whatever you need. So that's going to be kind of cool.
This space is great. It is massive, and I cannot wait to see what happens with this space and what it looks like when it's done.
It'll be pretty cool.
Oh, man, yeah. This is amazing.
This is just some of our test colors, but we're going to be working with oranges, blues. There's a gray as well, and kind of an off-white. But, you know, it'll be a very different space when we're all done.
Oh, I can't wait. Will you post pictures for all of us so we can see?
Whatever you guys need, yeah. We're going to be posting pictures and doing video, and if you wanted to see the vision for it, you can also go to glfirst.org, and you can click on our Children's Ministries remodel. You'll see my wife and I walking through this space and casting the vision using video to cast the vision for this space, which over $20,000 has already been given, and we're looking at raising another $20,000 and eventually getting to the $88,000 mark to redo this whole space. And that's one of the things I want to encourage folks to do is you got to keep up on your spaces. And I encourage people to do like a rotation. So, you know, if you got a bunch of classrooms, break it up into an even or an odd number. Say, okay, we're going to deal with 4 classes this year. And we're going to rotate through. Because what had happened in this space was what happens in a lot of churches, where we don't change things for forever and a day, and then it costs you so much to be able to change it, whereas it wouldn't have cost that much if you would have updated as you went through the course. So pick a room, pick 2 rooms, and focus on that year, and then the next year. You don't have to do it all at the same time. You know, focus on the next 2 rooms the next year and paint a room or paint 2 rooms, and then go to the next. You know, be patient about it, and then you can eventually get to it all. This is just one wing. One section of one wing of the rest of our church, and so we're focusing on this area of the church at this time, and then we're going to put the rest of the building into rotation.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that because what had happened was nothing changed for like 40 years.
Oh.
So now we got to spend all this money and get this stuff up to par. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to change this stuff, and it's going to cost a lot more. But if you do it in sections, it'll cost a lot less, and it'll be a lot better for your church.
So even if they have to start small, they should start.
Yeah, start somewhere. Pick a place, pick a space. You know, you don't need to have $1 million. It's great if you can do that. If you can do that and you can raise $1 million, you can raise $88,000, you can do that, do it. Absolutely do it, and do a great big reveal. But if you can't and you're saying, there's no way, I'm a small to mid-sized church, there's no way. There's always a way.
Yes.
Do it incrementally, but start doing it.
Let's start doing it.
And pray. And that's the one thing I keep telling people. Man, pray, because it's amazing what will happen. The naysayers will come to you and they'll say, oh, there's no way you can do that. There's no way you can do that. There's no way you can do that. But you know what? If you seek God and you pray, I call it laying out a red carpet before you. If you pray and you begin walking down that red carpet of prayer, and then you go and you talk to people, it's amazing. And people everybody said, oh my gosh, don't talk to them about that. It'll never happen. Don't talk to them. And you go ahead and you pray. God will lay out a foundation and a red carpet before you. And then you'll go and you'll talk to those people and say, hey, would you be willing to do this? And they'll say, yeah, absolutely. And you'll ask them, how come you never helped out before? And they'll say this, well, nobody ever asked me.
Oh,
and you have no idea how many times I've had that said, well, nobody ever asked me to paint a wall. Nobody ever asked me to help.
That was my pastor's pet peeve. He'd ask and ask from the pulpit, and then he'd finally ask somebody personally, and they'd say, well, nobody ever asked me.
Yep. Ask personally, and it's amazing the doors that will open if you ask personally, because they just want to know you care.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Well, you've gotten me excited and inspired, Pastor Joe, and I cannot wait to see what happens with this renovation. And I'm sure you're going to keep growing and growing and growing. So I want to thank you for allowing us to kind of invade your church and video some stuff for the show. But I hope you inspired a lot of kids pastors out there, and that they just get out there and start updating those spaces.
Yep. Clean a space, paint a space. We're not a great big place. I mean, we are not like some 5,000 person church. We're a couple hundred people in East Lansing, Michigan. So, I mean, you know, you can do it in Kalamazoo. You can do it in other parts of the country. You can do it in Dayton, Ohio. You can do it wherever you're at.
Yes.
But just start somewhere. Clean a space, paint a space, start somewhere.
Just get started.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank all you guys for being with us on the show today. And I will be seeing you later on, because this next week, Pastor Joe and I are both teaching at the CM Connect conference, and I'll be talking to some fantastic children's pastors there. So I want to say bye from Lansing, Michigan, and God bless your ministry. God bless what you're doing, and I hope this inspires you. Leave your comments below on what you have done to renovate. Maybe some pictures would be great. And as always, like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.